Greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Total War Warhammer Grudgebringer lore video on the founding of the Grudgebringers. Now the Grudgebringers, for those of you who don't know, are a hardened force of mercenaries led by their enigmatic commander, Commander Morgan Bernhardt, who operate throughout the old world in the Warhammer universe. They have been known to lay down their lives in the protection of the civilized world, for the right price of course, and have even gone as far as to save the Empire itself. In today's video, we'll be focusing on the founding of the Grudgebringers and how they came about to be the fighting force they are today. Now, Morgan Bernhardt grew up the eldest son of Graf Bernhardt of Nullen. His father is a wealthy and influential merchant in the ancient city and is said to control traffic over the 5 bridges of Nullen, including the drawbridge of the Reich. He hence has something of a grip on the commerce which enters and exits Nullen, and so commands a great degree of wealth. As is tradition in Nullen, the eldest son of the wealthiest families are sent to the officer academy of the Great Gunnery School. Morgan Bernhardt was no exception, and he spent 4 years learning the skills of command, strategy, and leadership there. He gained a reputation as a gifted yet troublesome student, graduating top of every class in which he could be bothered to attend. The study of artillery bored him senseless, and for the young Bernhardt, the glamour of the cavalry attracted him like a magnet. He could outride the Reichsguard knights who sometimes visited Nullen in all their finery, and took great pains to goad these young lords to take part in elaborate competitions involving horses and huge sums of money whenever possible. Eventually, however, Bernhardt's fiery temper and unrepentant sense of misadventure was his undoing. He was thrown out of the academy for gross insubordination, dueling, and misappropriation of college funds. This was his first step along a great career as a mercenary captain. Having been kicked out of school, young Bernhardt was determined to put his fighting and equine skills to the test. Bernhardt attempted to prove his right to join the Knights of the Blazing Sun, the Knights Panther, and even the Knights of the White Wolf in Middenheim. All refused to recognize his cleverly crafted representations of why he should be counted amongst their number, and his checkered history dogged him like a curse, catching up eventually wherever he went. He was even refused a place in the Empire Pistoliers, to his great chagrin and to the delight of his peers. Essentially not a bad man, the young Commander Bernhardt was a slave to his ego and temper. He wanted battle, glory, honor, and riches, if only to prove to his contemporaries, whom he considered to be dull by and large, that he was more than their equal in every respect. And so it was that, kicking his heels in Nullen, he met with Gunther Shepco. Shepco was a hard-bitten mercenary, commanding a small but extremely tough bunch of soldiers known as Shepka's 16. The name came from a now infamous battle at Blackfire Pass some 10 years ago, when Shepka and his battle-scarred mercenaries held off over 200 orcs for 5 hours, while the baggage train they guarded retreated into the safety of the Empire. At the end of the battle, only 16 of Shepka's initial forces of 50 survived, and the Greenskins were slain to the last goblin. Shepka, refusing to acknowledge the fact he was any sort of hero, explained their suicidal defense of the convoy simply by the fact that theirs was a fixed-sum contract, and the money initially due for 50 now went to a mere 16. Not only that, but the gold to pay the mercenaries rested in the rearmost wagon of the convoy, a shrewd move by the convoy's paymaster. Shepco recognized a kindred spirit in young Bernhardt, and a few evenings of drinking and discussion soon acquainted the old soldier with Morgan's superb grasp of tactics and soldiership. All theoretical, lamented the drunk Morgan one evening after a lengthy session at the Kippered Herring, one of the less salubrious drinking houses of Nullen. "So, my young captain, you want to fight, eh?" growled Shepka, rubbing his stubbled chin thoughtfully. "There's ways and means if you really have the fire in your belly." "I want to lead," exclaimed Morgan, slamming his tankard on the table. "I have the knowledge, I have the skill, and you can follow me if you will. How many years have you been scraping a living? 5, 10, 15? Well, show me the men, and I'll put together a fighting force to shame the Reichsguard, and the Panthers, and the whining white wolves of Middenheim to boot." Morgan's eyes were blazing with fury and inspired determination. "Are you with me? Well, are you?" Morgan slumped in his chair, drumming his fingers on the coarse wooden table. Most of the drunken warriors in the alehouse had of course been listening in on the words of Bernhardt. In fact, they could hardly miss his rousing ragings. Although Morgan's questions were addressed to Shepco, after a moment's silence, the alehouse erupted with a hubbub of cheering and shouting, "I'm with you! Count us in! We're your men!" The young Morgan looked shocked and a little embarrassed by the furore he'd started. But Shepco sat back and grinned his wolfish grin. He saw a great leader in the making, a rising star. Standing up, he waved the rest of the men quiet and addressed the throng. "We're all fighting men, and here is Captain Morgan Bernhardt, our leader. He's a tactical genius and a great fighter on horse and foot. We'll do the swearings in afterwards, but for those of you who are in, get to the bar. The drinks are on the captain." The rush to the bar was a good sign of his new men's loyalty as any could wish, and Bernhardt was left rifling through his pockets. "I have not the gold to pay," he began whispering to Shepco. "Ah, I see. We'll need someone with an eye for gold," answered Shepco, nodding sagely. He beckoned into the shadows. "Let me introduce Mr. Dietrich von Schweitzer, the canniest paymaster you ever likely to meet this side of the Blackfire Pass." A scrawny individual with beady eyes and long grasping fingers edged into view and nodding as if possessed. Very good indeed, young Bernhardt. I know your father, you know. Clever man. Pleased to meet you." His quiet, whispering voice had a steel edge to it as he peered over the rim of his spectacles. "I expect you will be needing an advance on your first job to pay for tonight's drinks. Let's just say this will be my affirmation of determination to our cause. After all, you will risk your lives, while I will risk that which is most precious to me, my gold." At this point, as if things could not get any more unlikely, a cloaked stranger stepped forth from the darkened alcove. His robe was red, and his beard matched its crimson hue. He was obviously very old, and somewhat the worse for drink. Cheerily, he impressed nonetheless. Small sparks flickered from his fingertips, and wisps of grey smoke curled every so often from his flared nostrils. "A rousing speech, young man. Well done indeed. Fiery temper in you, that's for sure. That's what you need round here. Too many fops and dandies for my liking." He narrowed his eyes conspiratorially. His voice lowered to a whisper. "Burn 'em to a crisp, I say. I can do it, you know." At that, he reared up, hiccuped, and sent a gout of flame up towards the ceiling, whilst a nimbus of sparks licked around his head. The occupants of the alehouse, who were not already at the bar, made for it at double speed, or left the inn by the back door. Fighting for gold was one thing, wizards, and drunken bright wizards at that, were another altogether. "You'll go far, mark my words," explained the wizard, wagging his blazing finger sagely at Bernhardt. "I only wish I was young enough, but no matter. I've done more than enough in my time. Hold a moment, I'll be back." And with that, he stumped off to his alcove, leaving glowing embers where his feet trod on the wooden boards. "Who in blazes?" exclaimed Morgan. "He's raving mad! He could burn the place down!" "Not so loud, sir. That's Darius Redhand, one of the arch-wizard lords of the Bright College in Altdorf. Often comes this way, a bit of local colour, or so he says." Shepco's growling whisper bade his commander be silent. "You appear to have caught his eye." The old wizard stumped back into view, carrying a scabbard. On close view, the scabbard was fashioned in black leather so worn that any inscriptions or decorations were long since worn away. When he reached Bernhardt, Redhand drew the blade. The sound was a musical ringing that only the finest of blades could ever replicate. Runes burned on its blade, illuminating the alehouse with glorious blazing light. Redhand waved it around vaguely for a few moments, and then sheathed the blade again, quenching its fire. Dangerous things, magic swords. Always trying to get out, you know? The old wizard paused for a moment, then cleared his throat. "This is Grudgebringer, forged by the dwarves, as they all seem to be these days. A weapon of great power." Redhand uttered the latter as if the sword demanded that the words be said, the required formal introduction for a presence superior than any other in the alehouse. Redhand held the scabbard out to the hesitating Bernhardt. "Well, go ahead, take it. You'll make better use of it than I'm going to at my age. It's always thirsting for battle, and I have not been in one for years now. It's only fair to free the blasted thing, though we have had some glorious times, you know. The aged wizard thrust the scabbard into Bernhardt's hands, nodded sagely, then turned and stalked out the inn. Grudgebringer demands respect, young man. He has some great powers, if you treat him well. And with that last retort, he was gone into the night, leaving a swirl of sparks and embers in the air. Morgan would wonder for the rest of his life if he'd seen tears in the old Redhand's glittering eyes as he left his favourite blade behind him. And so the unlikely partnership was forged, and the Grudgebringers came into existence. With Shepco's experience and Bernhardt's tactical brilliance and flair for leadership, success was inevitable. At von Schweitzer's suggestion, they began campaigning in Reichland, earning a reputation as a hard-nosed bunch of very professional soldiers who achieved whatever task they were set with grim determination and very rarely failed. If bonuses were offered, the Grudgebringers fulfilled the conditions to the letter. If patrons reneged on a deal, retribution was swift, violent, and just. The Grudgebringers soon became known alternatively as Bernhardt's private army, a small force of utterly professional mercenaries with their own code of honor, and back in Nullen, the aging Graf Bernhardt smiled his secret smile of pride whenever he heard the latest tales of his eldest son's ever-growing chain of glorious victories. And that sums up how the Grudgebringers came into being. I may follow this video up with some other lore on the Grudgebringers and their story so far, but the Grudgebringers are a great unit in the Warhammer universe. I do doubt we'll ever see them in Total War Warhammer simply because they were invented for a series of games by a company called Mindscape Games, known as Shadow of the Horned Rat and The Dark Omen, so there might be some rights issues there, but there is already a great mod out there for the Grudgebringer mercenaries. Do check it out on Steam, just type Grudgebringers and it should pop up. I can't recommend it enough, and it's been added to by several different modders over the sort of year of release of Total War Warhammer. I used it myself in my recent Empire campaign, do check that out also. And that about sums it up for today's video. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this one, and I might bring you some more Grudgebringer lore. Otherwise, do subscribe for more Total War Warhammer lore and gameplay. Hopefully, look forward to seeing you guys on the next one, and hope you all have a great day. Thanks very much.